Thank you so much, you guys. So the first area we're going to cover is just like, what is a zine? And it's my favorite part because literally a zine is just a piece of paper that's been folded up and you write on it, you draw on it, and it's just your voice being expressed through paper, through printed form. And it's now translated in digital in today's day, but in general, zines have like four key areas. One is that, zines first are like, they're not zines. I just want to make that clear. It's zines, short for magazines. So it's a short form of writing, short form. And zines are self-published. So it's usually self-publishing, very rarely, but does happen by a small independent publisher. But it's very much a point of expression for voices that are underrepresented. So the self-publishing allows voices that have been underrepresented, that are oppressed voices, to express themselves outside of the mainstream media, which is very much based upon capitalism. And so it allows, those oppressed voices to have ownership of their voice and what does publishing even look like. So it very much, zine is like, has an alternative history towards it. And is very much rooted in, I think, a form of resistance, print resistance, writing resistance, storytelling resistance. The second area is that, zines are pretty much like non-commercial. They're printed in small batches. They have typically, you're creating a niche, you're serving a niche audience. There's a specific voice, and so therefore there's a specific subject matter, and therefore it's a specific audience that you're speaking to, whoever can connect to that subject matter. It doesn't have to be heavy. I don't want you guys to like think it's always like it's going to be reparations. It can be it can be just about like, what makes me happy. There are, personal zines. That's another form. There are informational zines. That's another form of zines. So there's like different, subcategories, so-called, of zines, but they basically do the same point, and they are, small. And the third area I would say is that they are just a vehicle for ideas of expression, of art. So it builds a connection between you and people, and just provides a mode of being able to disseminate information out to the audience of whomever you're trying to reach. And you can just, it can be just, like, why I love hot dogs. That's it. And so you want to connect with other people that are hot dog lovers. That's who you want to reach. So it's very, very radical. It's very, very fun. It doesn't have to be serious. Although a lot of zines does have a history of seriousness. And also there's a lot of joy that can be found in zines too. And then I just want to share, like, there's no formal definition of zines. However, traditionally, for physical zines, historically, it was in sets of 8. And physically, it must be divisible by 4. So that's just because of the folding of the paper and printing. You got to think of your front and back. And so again, it's just one piece of paper, and we'll go into this. I'll share my screen in a minute, but where it must be divisible by 4 for making a zine. So that's, one area. And you guys, if you are like, hey, this is a lot for me to process, don't worry about taking notes right now. I'm going to give you guys a syllabus at the end. It'll be a link. Everything that I'm saying to you literally is in this form, as well as my email address. So if you have any questions, you could follow up with me. I'm also about to share my screen and show you in Canva the simple way of making a zine that we can cover like in 5 minutes. And all of this will be in the syllabus as well too. So if you have any questions, like digitally, all of that, you're going to be able to have access to all of that. So don't worry about, just enjoy yourselves, please, as much as possible. And let me move this down. Let me see if this is the correct one. Yes. Okay, so I have here, and this is my screen, say I'm in Canva. And in Canva, I just want to show you like quickly in 5 minutes how I would create a zine. I already have it broken down like step by step, but I want to, let me see, this box, like this was an original, let me see, box. See all, and then we have, I want to say, there we go. So I'm just gonna delete this one, prepped. So you guys see, I just searched for box, and I did the same thing for line. When I got this line, I just went into Canva. Canva is free. It's very easy. You see it has my rulers on here. If you're unfamiliar with it, you have your ruler. So you're seeing your piece of paper. You see, I see the edge where it bleeds out. So that means, you know, this is my printing. I'm outside of my printing margin. And then you can come here and file, view settings, and you can, you know, show margins, which I have. I can click on add guides, and you see it'll add those extra guides. So what I want to do is just bring this square down. And as I do, this square is going to, let's see, you see that red line going across my screen? That means I'm at the halfway point. So I want to stop there because I want to be halfway on the screen. And then I'm just going to bring this over to, I see again. All right, I got that other red line. So that means I'm at half. I'm at a half of the page here, and I'm at half the page here. And then I'm going to take this line, and I'm going to go until I see that red line again. And so you see there's a there we go. See that right in the green box, I have dotted lines there, and that means I'm exactly in the middle. So that's wonderful. I know I'm exactly where I need to be. And so this means this is just setting up. So you're going to have 8 of these boxes. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do this again. So I'm going to duplicate this line, and I'm going to drag this over here. And I know that's halfway. And then I'm just going to move this box over to the other side, because this is just a measuring tool. I just want to measure out. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it again. And then I'm going to go again. And I'm looking for that dotted line again, right? I want to see that dotted line. There we go. I see, am I there? Yes, there we go. I'm right in the middle. So did I move? Yep, there we go. Right in the middle. So now I have theoretically 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm missing a line in the middle. So I need to take this line once again and take it here. And then I'm going to move it 180. And you guys got to be patient with me because this is the tricky part. I'm on a laptop. And so you're going to see if you're doing this on your laptop as well too. You don't have a mouse pad. It could be a little bit tricky, but I'm right there now. So now I'm at 180, and I'm literally going to line this up until I see there's no red line going across the paper. And yet there it is. So that means I'm exactly half. And then I just want to bring this line all the way over. Boom. So now I have my zine. My zine template is done, you guys. I have my front and back. So this is going to be your front and back. And then this is going to be your pages like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your template is essentially done. That it's just as easy as that. And you could take this and you could literally print it out. And you'll have a copy of this, you guys. So I just want to show you, this is like a completed version that I pre-did ahead of time. And then I wanted to show you what a template looks like. So you know, like as you go to fold it, where does content go? So this would be your front, and this is your back. And remember, I said it's always in sets of 4, sets of 8. So we have 8 pages here. This paper is broken down into 8 for a 1-pager, a zine. That's a 1-pager, like a mini zine. So here's your front, here's your back. And then you're going to remember that on this side, it's going to be upside down. So on the opposite of your front and back, your content's going to be upside down. And then you just go from front and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just think of it like a circle. You're starting on your bottom right, that's your front, and you're going all the way around counterclockwise. And you get to 6 and then you hit back. So you guys will have a copy of this. And I actually have a little zine for you. So if you actually print this out, you can decide which ones to print out. You know, you can print out the blank template, you can print out the one that's here, and then you can print out this little simple one. And this one I actually have in here because you guys are going to get this. And when you get it, it's hyperlinked to one of my favorite zine makers, actually. And so right in here, you have a hyperlink for Bree, I believe her name is. Where's the link? Bree, did I move it? That's okay. I'm pretty much certain I have it open. Here we go. Okay. So I was taking time and I was like, how am I going to show you guys how to fold it? Because as you can see, my camera is here and you need to see it this way. So I was like, I can't take the laptop and put it over me to show you physically how it works. But essentially, when you have a zine, all you need, as you can see Bree in here, all you need is that piece of paper and a pair of scissors. That's it. Now, some people will say, oh, you also need something sharp to write with. To fold with. You can use your nails. You can use a penny. You can use a butter knife. You can use anything. If you want to be fancy, you can use a bone reader, which allows you to fold creases as you fold each one. And make sure you take your time with the creases because the creases do matter if you want to make sure that the zine is properly lined up and it's not, misaligned as you're folding it. So take your time when you're folding the zines, make sure the folds, the creases are very, very flat. And I'm just going to hit play so you guys can. Please. That's it, you guys. So it's very, very simple. And as you notice, at the end, Bree mentioned, like, you can sell, trade, barter. Zines, if they are sold, it's for like a couple of dollars, $1 for like these mini zines, a couple of dollars, depending, she's very fancy. She's got a whole zine digital business. So hers is very, very advanced. But this is a very, very resistance culture. So it's meant to be affordable. It's meant to be for free. If you have another friend that makes a zine, barter, switch. Hey, I have this one. Can we exchange? So I want to encourage you to step outside of money and using that as a medium to, share and to learn from one another. Please, set up time and, hey, I want to create a zine. You want to create a zine? Let's meet up. Let's link, even if it's virtually. Let's take time and create a zine, and then we can, mail it to each other if it's physical, or we can email them to each other or share the link with one another if we're making them digitally. And so, in here, that will be hyperlinked in here, and this whole Canva link is inside of the presentation document. So I want to make sure you guys, understand and you have that. And again, you'll be able to, I'm going to get through because we have a bunch of stuff to get through. So I want to make sure you guys have everything. So, we have the folding directions. There's your digital reel. The physical zines is always by an 0.5 by 5.5 inches. So the size of the paper, and that's important when you go into Canva and you're looking into your dimensions. So you want to be able to type that in. I had that preset for you guys, so you can, just duplicate this and copy this as a template. And also in Canva, let me also show you guys, if you go in Canva, so this is a mini zine, but if recently, and I just found this out, literally, I was like, wait a minute, I had no idea. Zines are, they have templates now in Canva on zines. So this is how far advanced we've gotten here. And you can see all of these amazing templates in here. You're going to see a lot of the dual, I'm a fan of the duotone, which is, right here of the, that's one style I'm a huge fan of. But there's many different styles in here. So if you're like, hey, I'm a great writer, but I don't know about visuals, this isn't my, area of specialty, that's okay, because there's templates already here. So you can go in here and see what works for you. There's more that's more collage style. I love collage styles. So you can come in here and look at collage styles. And there's just a whole, as you can see, there's several different types in here. So come into Canva, type in zine, and just, look around to your heart's content and see what visually strikes you and what do you want to use. And this type of a zine, it doesn't come out to a mini zine, it comes out to a traditional zine, which is essentially a piece of paper that's folded in half. So the paper is folded in half. So you're going to have, this is just already preset for you. And I'm noticing, like I was saying, 4 of 9. Again, they're supposed to be in sets of 8 for printing purposes. So just be aware that when you're using these templates, that they're not in sets of 4, and make sure that before you send it to print that you have in here sets of 4, because I'm seeing various 9, 10 pages. So they're giving you some basics, a lot of pages for a template, but make sure you fill in the content so that you're in 4 in sets of 4 when you go for print for your zine. Let me see. Okay, now into the fun stuff. Okay, so our first zine that I could find in our history actually was a zine produced in the 1920s, and it features a lot of writers. Let me make sure I'm not going too fast for you guys. Okay. You're hilarious. Okay. So this is an amazing, and again, you guys will have all of this. You're going to have all of the links and everything. But when you look in here, the Langston Hughes is in here, Zora Neale Hurston, Wallace Thurman. You see all the writers in here. This was amazing. And only one issue was ever made. So this was a compilation of writers, right? They came together and they said, hey, we have something to say. And they came together and everybody ended up writing their piece, and they brought this piece together, and this piece called together formed the first zine out of Harlem, and the Renaissance period, 1920s. So this is very, very exciting during this time. And as you can see, like I'm just clicking through so that you quickly, because we have a lot of stuff to get through. You can see all of the different writing. So there was plays in here, there's poetry in here, there's pictures in here, there's drawings in here, all of the stories are in here. And so everybody just, pictures and expression, that's fine. You don't have to have words, you can just draw, that's fine. You could just do doodles, perfectly fine. There's no rules with this. Again, just sets of 4. And so this is Fire. And Fire actually was so popular, it inspired so many other Black folks in Harlem that it ended up sparking the next one that came out, which was Survey Graphic. And I pulled up a video, and I'm gonna let this video actually explain more to you guys about Survey Graphic. So that way, less talking for me, so my voice won't get annoying to you.
Therapy suite. Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? Langston Hughes was one of many famous black writers during the Harlem Renaissance. In fact, there were so many that a special issue of the Survey Graphic, a social science and culture journal, was produced in 1925 to commemorate the impact of Harlem on the American literary landscape. It featured scholarly writings in history and sociology from some very important figures in academia and research. One was James Weldon Johnson, a lawyer, a poet, an activist who is best known for co-writing Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is now known as the Black National Anthem. Additionally, he was an active participant in the NAACP and served as its first Black executive secretary from 1920 to 1930. Another writer featured in this special issue was Arthur Schomburg, also sometimes known as Arturo. Schomburg, a pioneer in the area of Black history, was an Afro-Puerto Rican man who developed one of the most significant collections of printed material about the Black diasporic experience in the world. His collection was acquired by the New York Public Library, and the collection grew into what would become the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. The famous issue of the Survey Graphic also included work from Walter White, a lynching investigator who attempted to secure passage of a federal anti-lynching bill, as well as poems by writers like Claude McKay and Countee Cullen. McKay and Cullen were both cornerstones of the Harlem Renaissance literary scene, but with divergent approaches. Cullen, who many scholars believe was the person Langston Hughes was being critical of in The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain essay, embraced colorblindness in his work and wrote in a prose that appealed to Eurocentric literary sensibilities. McKay, a Jamaican immigrant, proudly wrote poetry in his Jamaican dialect in addition to what he called straight English. One of McKay's most famous poems, If We Must Die, speaks to the rising sense of Black militancy in many parts of the Black community. It goes, "If we must die, oh, let us nobly die."
Okay, I'm gonna stop here, you guys. So this is definitely, you have access to this, but here's Survey Graphic. Here's the actual full 104 page, so you can luxuriously go through this and you're gonna be able to see all, look, this is amazing. Like I'm a nerd, you guys. Like this is fun for me, being able to read this stuff, where East Africa borders the future. Just a picture that somebody drew in here, and it's just so much fun being able to see what was important that people felt wasn't being captured, in the local news, because we know, what those local news actually captures. And as the previous video shared, there's different styles of writing, and the writers didn't necessarily always agree. So coming together to form this, people were coming from various places. Their style of writing was different. Their intention was different. Some were appealing to more of the white gaze, or the successfully colonized Negro, and others were not. They're saying, no, we're not going too shy. We're going to use our broken English, and the dialect from where we're from. And this is it, period. So I hope you enjoy this. I just wanted to make sure you have this, but I'm gonna again, we're going through time, and there's a bunch more I wanna get through. So you have that one there to explore. And then, in the 1960s, there was more political messages brought through zines. And the one I want to show you is like the Journal of Black Poetry. And this one actually gives you a huge history, this link on here. So in the 1960s, I just want to make sure you guys have this actually as you're reading on the history of, zines and Black American history with zines. And this was very, very extensive. I was so happy to find this and being able to share with you guys, because it's so detailed, and so much of it, to the previous, video that was shown, unfortunately is being gatekept by these educational institutions. So isn't it ironic, right, that like the form of political expression for the voices of the unheard, there was a collector, Afro-Puerto Rican collector, Schomburg, and he loved all of it, and he was collecting as much as possible, and his collection was so vast and extensive that they ended up the New York Public Library took his collection and named it after him. But he was really inspired from a movement that was sparked off by Langston Hughes. So it's very interesting how like the, names have meanings, and where did Schomburg, how did Schomburg even get to, why is it named Schomburg? And so he was a collector, and what was he collecting? He was collecting Black American, writings, zines. And so that's where the name of that center comes from. So even just being a collector of documenting what you're seeing and collecting the zines, that is an important role as well too. So even if you're not creating them, collecting them is just as mighty and important. And I think it's really unfortunate and sad that so much of this knowledge is being gatekept behind history. But in here, you can go through and you're going to be able to have time to read this in depth, more on, the 1960s and Afro-American literature. And, through the 60s, we started to see, print, it became more and more. And so it was becoming easier to create zines and, magazines. You see the explosion of them starting to arise more and more. And, and here, this article, this is a very, very long article that goes into all of the the history of zine making and how this has actually ended up creating, literature during a time when people were being stereotyped as not being able to read. And people were like, I don't know what you're talking about. We are readers. And, basically a form of protest against that stereotype that still runs rampant, amongst our community today. So I wanted you guys to have access to that, to read that. And then in the 1970s, there was a huge explosion of zines, again, more so because the rise of copy shops. So printing was cheaper and easier. And the Black Panther Party is infamous for all of their zines and the materials that were being dispersed within the community. So I wanted you guys to have this link and for you to be able to see all of the documentation. And so you can come here, you can, just break down by media type. And so I'm going to click on PDF. And then you're going to come here and you're going to be able to see all of these different types of information that was put out. So we can click on, here, against revisionism. So let's take a look at this. And you're seeing like, wow, this is very different, right, than the previous ones. So the copy print has advanced a bit more, and you can definitely see that. You're seeing the images, right? These are pictures, not just drawings. It's looking a little bit more familiar, probably, if you're familiar with zines. You're seeing like the typewriter, that font is here and being used. And so, then they have, Black Panther Party. This is probably like, what's it called? A stamp, used to create these. So you got to understand that usually when you make a physical zine, it's physical and then it gets copied into print. So the physical copy, there's probably this revisionist line. This was probably a stamp, or it was taped onto here in this section. And this piece of paper was all printed out and then it was copied. So this is just one form in here, but there's several and they all look different. And I want you to be able to explore and look through all of this. There's 3 pages here. And I know a lot of people are really curious about like all that content that was created. And please know there was so much content, like you could just go, like this is a whole class, like semester worth of knowledge, you guys. Like there's classes taught on the history of Black American zines. If you like hit Google, you're gonna find like colleges actually teach this, and there's whole classes on this. So I'm just like quickly trying to go through time because I want to open up the floor. I want to share a few more things, and then I want to open up the floor and talk with you guys about what, is being shared. So in the 1980s, our zines, we still had the punk scene going on, but, it was 80s. And so in the 80s, we also had the explosion of the voices, again, oppressed voices that are going unheard. And at this time, we were talking about our Black LGBTQ community, right? We were not being heard during this era. So I wanted to show you an example of a zine from that era as well, too. And here is Thing. And so Thing, and here's a whole history of Thing. And Thing lasted until 1993, and basically ended due to the AIDS pandemic. That actually is what ended up taking out the community. So I think that's very important, to think about, is if the audience you're talking to, the community that you come from, and the audience that you're talking to is experiencing genocide, how this can affect the art, and how the art can die out. And it's very sad to me, to see how this was a beautiful, beautiful part, and essentially the AIDS pandemic ended up ending this publication. But you can come through here and you can see these beautiful, beautiful Black men, and learn more about them. The co-founders, Lawrence Warren and Trent Adkins. And so this is their history, and you can come here, and scroll through, look and learn more. And I think it's really, really important, especially I'm queer. If you are Black and, LGBTQ, knowing our history, knowing the erasure of it, seeing our vulnerabilities of how our expression of art is erased or replicated, or whitewashed, utilized in other means of expression. And just knowing, like, we were here, y'all. Like, we've always been here, always been expressing ourselves. And this is just a zine that's specifically for the Black LGBTQ. But that doesn't mean, let me be clear, back to the 1920s, that none of those Black writers in Fire or in the later one, Survey Graphic, were not Black LGBTQ. Okay, let's end that myth also whatsoever. So many of our poets and so many of our writers were Black and LGBTQ. However, due to the homophobia, queerphobia, transphobia, they were not able to be who they were. So this was radical at this time, because there's a lot of, I'm not going to be in the closet anymore. I'm queer and I'm here and I'm proud. And so visually you can look and you can see just all of the fun folks had in making these, and how fun it was for them, and the interlay between this and like DJing, which was huge in the scene. The house music was huge. And so how house music was birthed, and DJing, house music, and queer zines, how those all intersect and created this subculture. So that is, there. And so you have access to all this. I'm going to give you guys this document. And hold on, I'm seeing some comments. I just want to make sure. Yes. Yeah, the way, right. I love the vintage style. And yes, we can make these way easier now. So I'm very, very happy. And so from the 1990s forward, there's a few different areas. So I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna go first to, before I go to some of my favorites. This is 3 Dot Zine. So this one I haven't seen any more uploads. So this is like discontinued, but I want to make sure you have like a list of Black zine makers out there now that I know about. So this is one, there's a couple here. And I'm just going to click on this one so you can see just how simple it is. So I believe for this one that they produced, they used, it looks like they used legal paper. So not even the traditional like 8.5 by 10 paper, but they folded it. You see, they folded it in quarters, and this is how they decided to use it. And so this is amazing. Used green paper so that it came out green and just printed in black and white. So you have that vintage feel towards it, which is really, really beautiful. And so let me see if we can click on this one in Baltimore Boy. See what Baltimore Boy shows us. So a trio of short stories. This time we're only going to get the front and the back. But that's okay. You know, you can always purchase a 3-dot zine. It's $10 here. I'm going to go and find some more examples for you guys. So before I get into our local zines, I want to show you one of my teachers in my first exposure to zine making. And this was through, and I have some physical zines, so I'm going to stop in a second and show you some physical ones I have. But this was through Black Quantum Futurism. This was like over a decade ago now, when I first learned about Black Quantum Futurism. Black Quantum Futurism is founded by two Black LGBTQ, a queer couple out in North Philly, survivors of the bombings in North Philly. And they're the ones, Rashida Phillips and Kame Ayewa are actually the ones who founded the theory that time is not linear. Time runs concurrently. The past, present, and future runs concurrently. And in fact, we knew this and our ancestors knew this, and as a result, they were able to time travel. They were able to hop portals in time and create spaces that were non-existent. And so I believe I'm here now because Kame and Rashida time traveled and created this space. And out of that space, I was able to time travel and create the space that we're in here today. So I'm also a student of Black Quantum Futurism. I have several of these books, and I'm going to actually stop and share for a second so you can see some of the physicalities, the different examples, like of physical ones. So this is a mini one that my friend created, and it's not even traditional. It's the way she cut it. So if you don't cut correctly, in that example, you mess up your cut, you're saying, oh shoot, I messed up my cut. Don't throw that piece of paper out. Okay, look at this. It's not even my thing, right? Let me go back. It's not even traditional. You see this? Amazing, so much fun. And it's like an accordion, right? It just goes all up together. And so this one's saying Outside the Lines, an adult coloring book. What is and what ain't, a series. And so I can just go through here and I can color to my heart's content. And then I can flip it over. And then I'm in a different portion and I'm just having fun. And I have an adult coloring book, all exploring the body, right? So this is really, really fun here. And if you're just like a line artist and you want to draw or just doodles and, you know, create a mini adult coloring book, right? You can do that. I have friends, one of my favorite graphic artists, I actually had the pleasure of meeting and taking a graphic class from her, Savina. What's Savina's last name? I forget Savina's last name, but if you email me, I'll get it. Savina works at Cannabis Workers Coalition. She's in the cannabis industry now, and I have Grow to Consume, and we're, as a form of protest, we're just giving out seeds and telling y'all to grow the weed, y'all, grow the weed, right? So our workers are being treated like crap. So here's an example of what Savina has been able to produce through, and see, this is not a traditional zine. It's not in this traditional form, but this is a more modern ways. And so this is plants. And I have a version of these. Again, my stuff is like in storage all over, you guys. I have a whole collection. There's a whole bunch more. But this is one that I want you to see. This is an older one I was able to dig up and find from Black Quantum Futurism. So you see how it's not even like traditional. You see how that paper just folds, right, as a cover. And then we're getting into the zine, right? And this is just basically like sharing who presented. This was a workshop that I went to. It was a day-long workshop, and it's telling you all the background on everybody. And then here's a simple back. So very, very simple. And then here is a different zine that they created. And these are all on their websites. So you can see Time Traveling in the Dream State. And so this is the cover. Here's your back, very simple. And then you get inside and, ooh, love it. When you have writing spaces, I love this. Like, give me your writing spaces, okay? So I totally love this. This is a whole other, here's more writing spaces in here. And yeah, this basically accompanied workshops. So I had this to go with me as I was attending a workshop. So this zine came with the workshop. So it was totally fun. I had blank spaces if I wanted to as part of that. And then here is, because they're zines, now we're getting into books, right? So this is hold on, I believe it's even, always even. Where are we? Pages 30, 31, 32. Yeah, 54, 55, 56. It's even. Rashida's even. So this is by Rashida Phillips. This is the telescoping effect. And so this is really fun, you guys. I'm just going to quickly, give you some visuals so you can see what's really going on in here. And you can see all of these, pretty graphics that's going on. For time traveling, you've got some beautiful poetry occurring in here, quotes going on in here, maps and breaking down of quantum mechanics is going down up in this book. Whole lot of fun going on. And then also just writing. And then whole pictures, right? So mapping, understanding spatial relations. Here is, closer, the Philadelphia Inquirer. So how your headlines, the time traveling, capturing that content, putting it in long form, and then bringing it all together. So if you have multiple zines, you're just, plugging along and like, hey, I'm really obsessed with this subject matter. And you realize I've got a long form content now, right? I just started out doing fun. And then another one of my favorite ones, which was a gift from a dear friend of mine, Jace. This one is called Our Work is Everywhere, and it's an illustrated oral history of queer and trans resistance. And so I'm just gonna give you guys, open up this book so you guys can see the different ways that all of this looks, right? So this is a book. This is like long form, right? So this is pretty much what zines would look like. And this one is only, how many pages we got in here? It's huge. They printed it out, 92. So again, in sets of 4, and beautiful, right? This is a visual feast for me. This is like, when you're dealing with social media and your focus span isn't as long as it should be to be reading a traditional attention book. Come here, come on over. Give yourself something to read that's enjoyable. Just, a whole lot of pictures, absorb what did the words on the page mean for you. And this is really to help connect the writer to the audience. They really, really want to be connected to you. So I wanted to show you guys some physical examples that you use. When you have a zine like this time camp, they actually didn't staple it, but traditionally you would have this stapled in half. Like this would be in half, and actually it would be stapled right here. And when you staple it, you guys, you don't staple it all the way through. You staple it like halfway, and then you literally have to have the bone reader. You can press down and push down. Don't push the staple all the way through. So if it's hard for you, because I am a little bit, of a weirdo, that's hard for me to remember, but I did get this cheap stapler off of Amazon. I know the dreaded Amazon, and it swivels. And so you can actually swivel its side, and that way it just reminds me go halfway down. So just something physical helps me remember that trick, don't push all the way down, because sometimes I'm just in automatic mode. So when I use a special stapler, it reminds me, oh no, I shouldn't be doing that for this. Yes. And so let me one more thing I think that I wanted to show you guys. Oh yes. Okay. So there are a few more things. I'm gonna wrap up. You guys are gonna have this. But here in in Massachusetts. I want you to know in Cambridge, there's the Million Year Picnic. This is a store, a bookstore, comic book store. They have comic books, they have zines, it's Black owned. And you can speak to this owner if you want to have your zine sold there. And so there's a lot of alternative culture loving folks like myself. We swing through there because we know we can find things that can't be found anyplace else. And then here is the paper cut zine. And the paper cut zine is a wonderful, again, another visual feast, totally free. You can come to here and you can look through here and search for whatever you want in this digital library. So I'm just going to let me put reparations and let's see what pops up, because that will be next class. So we didn't find anything. So we're going to go back and say, okay, we didn't find anything for reparations. Let's see what we find for racism. And we'll just hit search. And oh, look, there's several things going on here. So you can actually read a lot of things that's probably on college websites that's been behind the scenes. You don't have access to it anymore. And this one says, and don't call me a racist. And this one to download, I pretty much did it. You can download the whole book as one file. Yes, here we go. So, and don't call me a racist. Wonderful. This is actually, I was looking, I believe Harvard has this book and it's behind a wall. So I was like, oh, very nice of you. I hope my class participants, like, let's get together so we can protest Harvard. How dare you keep this type of information, this type of literature away from the general public and gatekeep it. So this is another form in here, that's there. And this one is actually written by a white person, but I just wanted to click on it because, racism. And I remember reading this and I was like, oh, this is such beautiful, how she dedicated this to the people of how she learned how to be anti-racist and what that actually means to her and the meanings of it, and dedicated this to them. So I could go on and on. There's, another zine in here, the Combahee River zine. This is a beautiful breakdown of the Combahee River Collective, the book actually, and this is broken down into a zine. So if you have a book that you love, and this is a modern zine, you have a book that you love and you just want to give this a summary, book, for quote unquote for dummies, a breakdown of it that is very tangible and easy for people to read and digest so they can get the whole concepts in a short form written manner. This is a great way, to do it and to show, this is this is what this book is about, essentially. So again, there's no subject matter that is taboo when it comes to zine making. And I'm going to stop here just to open the floor and answer any questions. And that way we can chat because I'm running out of air now. So please, which is great because we're right on time. So please, any questions, thoughts, let's talk.
Hey Saskia. I kind of have to, I think folks might be raising their hands. I just want to say thank you so much. I kind of have to head out now. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciated this workshop and the lineage of like zines that you shared with us. That's very like beautiful to see. And I think, it makes me feel like, we're right on time. We're like, right aligned with what our ancestors were doing, 100 years ago, right where we are right now. So thank you for sharing that. And I was gonna ask for the link that you just shared. So thank you for sharing that too. Yeah, and it was great to be here. See y'all next week.
Okay.
Month.
Thank you so much for coming. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed this.
Yes, to echo off of that comment, I also very much enjoyed this session. I just loved it. I learned so much, and you're a really great teacher, a really great communicator, and you're able to convey messages so well. And I felt excited during this time. But also, one of my biggest takeaways is that I was reflecting on myself, and I know that I don't exactly love social media that much. And I don't really participate in social media as much, but I do like to express myself. And so I felt like these zines could be a really cool way to express myself, despite me not wanting to exactly engage online that much. And, just thinking about how communication and information was traveled before the internet, and these were a medium that could happen and take place. And I'm like, I could just draw about, I don't know, the reason why, like last week I found this guy that's gonna be able to show me how to go fishing, and I can like draw a zine about all the things I learned when I go fishing. Or I watched The Little Mermaid, and I have like thoughts about it that I'd love to share, and I can make a zine about that. So it's like really exciting, and I'm really glad to learn about this forum, because I feel like I can better express myself with it.
Yes, and please, if you are open to, please drop your email in the chat. And so that way we can, as writers, link up with one another. Capitalism stays capitalizing. And so it can be very oppressive and distractive, and we can get writer's block. But yet when we talk with one another, when we connect with one another, sometimes it's just like, oh, just hearing about you talking about Little Mermaid, I was like, oh, wait, I love mermaids too. Let's go, sis. Like, let's meet, So, does the Little Mermaid eat seafood? I don't know, but I do. Right? Like, that's actually a good zine. That's a whole title right there that you could do. And yeah, maybe sea moss, right? That you could do a whole zine on exploring that. There's no subject matter that's taboo. So if you're open, again, on the actual the syllabus I put together with everything, my email address is on there. But if you guys want to link, together and share, you can drop your emails in the chat, and that way we're getting to know each other as a community as well too, of writers. Alula, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, that was amazing. So I didn't really know any of that history. Maybe I'd heard of fire before, and I like randomly stumbled into. So this actually also helped me remember I'd randomly stumbled into Black quantum futurism, working on a blog post like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, this was an absolutely amazing presentation. Very excited for and looking forward to sort of what is coming next. But I will be deep diving into this Google Doc for the next months at least, maybe a couple months. This is amazing. Thank you.
No problem. You guys, for the Black quantum futurism, they're my friends, so I gush about them. But I just want you guys to understand, like, zines and time traveling and the infinite possibilities that you can create for yourself. It's like these two Black queer women, North Philly, right? Now are world traveling artists. They are playing on the waters, on the rivers of Italy, on stages that they've created. They're now in California and doing residencies all across the world. They performed for CERN, CERN, and teaching, doing teachings on quantum mechanics there, and then also having residencies out in California. And Rashida's a lawyer, and most recently just came from visiting the White House and gave recommendations to President Biden on housing policies, because she's a phenomenal badass who's also a housing lawyer and is doing housing advocacy, and is also in doing advocacy for spatial reparations, which is like, space, land, Black landscapes, what does all this mean? And so think about the evolution of all of that work, and just starting small, right? Just taking a piece of paper and a pen and doodling and letting whatever comes out, and just keep running with it. Just keep running with it and keep going. So I think that's like such a beautiful story that's not captured properly, that I know, because I know these two phenomenal badass women, that I really just want to amplify because they inspire me so much. And Kamei, her stage name is More Mother. she puts out music like at least like 2-3 times a year, like she's a beast. So you can look up More Mother on any platforms. You could start off, you know, her first song, you could go YouTube it, Deadbeat Protest. Phenomenal song, like classic. Anybody who knows More Mother knows Deadbeat Protest. So I would say start there, but listen to all of every album has a different story to it. Her last one was Jazz Codes, and she's also part of different bands and, you know, things like that. So your zine making can capture all of your passions, and it can also just be separate, just capture one, and it can just help elevate you to express yourself in different mediums. So it can also be a tool for expression into other mediums as well too. For Kame, aka More Mother, that expression is through music. For Rashida, this is through books and writing policy and giving the White House recommendations, you know. So phenomenally, you know, together they're doing amazing things, and then teaching the world our, you know, quantum mechanics world, which is very white, cis male dominated, right? Actually what quantum mechanics is about, and making sure our narrative is not being erased out of science, which is also hugely important. Okay. Thank you, Gio. Okay. So we're over a minute right now. I adore you guys. And Alula, I see your email address. Deborah, I see your email address. So I'm just going to screenshot that to make sure I have that. And I'm going to pass this over to Gio because I could gush forever with you guys. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. So I just want to say thank you for coming. Mary, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I really appreciate you, and Gio as well too. Thank you, you guys. I'm gonna pass this over to Gio now.
For sure. Before everybody logs out, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Boston Ujima Project to Saskia, to the attendees, those that have left, those that are still here right now, and to all the staff that made this possible for a micro learning pod to be this radical and to be this like fundamentally like important to just how we like connect arts to movement building and our ultimate liberation. So say bye to the Zoom recording, our future YouTubers. Thank you so much.